Okay, hi everyone. My name is Lester. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Gush. Very quick introduction to what we do here. So Gush develops sustainable building materials for all the surfaces around us, and the idea is really to go beyond the surface to construct the future we can all gush about. So we started in 2017, and since then we've actually developed and commercialized 16 different SKUs. We've completed more than 8,000 projects, both in the residential and the commercial space. We're also in 6 active markets, namely Singapore, Thailand, Hong Kong, China, US, and the Gulf. We also have more than 200 interior designer partners for advocacy, as well as 193 contractor partners for recurring demand generation. We're also very proud to be the chair of the Healthy Building Consortium, which is supported by Enterprise Singapore, where we lead a group of Singapore companies to harness a pact to champion for healthy buildings on top of sustainable buildings itself. So why we started is because we see indoor air pollution as a massive problem. It's a huge problem. We spend about 80% of our time indoors, and the traditional building materials that we use, our traditional paints, adhesives, and laminates drastically increased occupant exposure to things like volatile organic compounds, otherwise known as VOCs. And the fact that we live in such highly humid environments in our climate also leads to a higher prevalence of things like mold. The fact that we also started to see a lot more buildings getting challenged with climate change as well as denser urbanization. And as cities heat up, the need for cooling also causes cooling energy consumption to climb. So we also wanted to solve for the rising temperatures and increasing cooling requirements. So these two are problems that we've seen for a while now, and we see it's only going to increase in terms of magnitude over the next few years. So we wanted to solve these problems from the root using advanced materials. And we started by looking at the biggest surface area around us, which are our walls. So we started with the interior walls around us, and we were thinking, how can we leverage on this big surface area to deliver impact for the people inside? And traditional paints are highly pollutive, so we thought, how about we reconfigure paints and turn these products into one that's also functional for people inside. So we actually developed a paint that's able to purify the air, and on top of that, it's very strong against molding, bacteria, it's completely VOC free, and it's also odorless. We then also developed a series called Clean Care, which is highly stain resistant for any multi-generational families with kids that like to be creative on the walls, and also for enterprise customers that have high traffic areas. So one of the key things that we've been doing here in Singapore is that we have worked with many malls. Typically, they have very recurrent mold issues because of the high humidity, and asset managers would have to clean, prime, and repaint the walls every 3 weeks. So after using Gush, this is actually one of the key examples that we have. We cleaned everything here with a tongue seller wash, so it was all white in color. We used a sealer, and then we just painted the small square in the middle here with our paint. After 18 months, everything else is turned moldy except for our painted area. So we're very confident in the paint's ability to prevent mold growth and thereby reduce the maintenance cost of these asset and facility managers. These are for the interiors. We also wanted to see how can we leverage on the other surfaces around us to combat rising temperatures. So if you look at the exterior, you look at the building, if you imagine the exteriors, there is both the exterior walls as well as the windows. So for the exterior walls, we actually developed a solar reflective paint that has global highs of solar reflectance of up to 92%, which then reduces the amount of heat transmission into the masonry surfaces. And then for the windows, we actually developed a solar film that's able to reject 99% of UV and infrared while still allowing a huge deal of visible light to pass through, so it doesn't compromise the beautiful views of the windows in the first place. And these here have been tested against thermal comfort as well as energy efficiency. The solar films have been proven to reduce up to 14.45% of the cooling energy consumption, and exterior paints up to 11.6%. So for Bees FM, I can also work with you guys. So beyond this, we keep thinking, how can we're in a very pragmatic and realistic market, so we keep thinking, how can we continue to innovate while disrupting cost? So for those who are familiar with the painting industry, typically for paints, you will need 3 coats of product. You will need 1 layer of sealer and 2 layers of paint. The sealer increases the adhesion of the paint to the wall, and it also seals off any impurities coming out from the concrete layer. And then you have the paints, which gives it its features and its colors, and you have 2 layers of that. But with 3 coats of product, you also need 3 coats of labor. And in a market like Singapore, where labor cost is so expensive, we see that the labor cost would be about 85% of the entire project cost. So the key thing in our head was, how can we reduce the amount of labor reliance? And then that invariably led to, how can we reduce the number of coats required? So in July last year, we actually developed two-in-one product where we blended the sealer into the paint itself, thereby reducing one layer of coat. So we only need two coats instead of three, thereby reducing 33% of the material cost and manpower cost. And then we thought about it even deeper. What is the point of paint in the first place? Essentially, if you think about it, paint is to cover any imperfections on the wall, is to change the color of the wall, is to make the wall look new again. So it's very cosmetic in nature. And with that, we started studying other adjacent industries like cosmetics. How do they have things like concealer, foundation, with one single coat one single coat is able to cover all the blemishes, and yet still have all the features of being able to retain moisture and reject UV. And realized actually when we studied the formulations of foundation, they actually grinded the particle sizes really small. They've mastered the particle sizing distribution technology. Since paints is like makeup for your walls, we thought, why isn't anyone leverage on the same technology into paints? And in November last year, we developed the world's first one coat product with sealers blended in with ultra high coverage, which means instead of three coats, we now only need one coat of product and one coat of labor. Effectively, with that, we have been able to shave off about 40 to 66% of our project cost, which gives us a huge cost advantage during tenders while not compromising on the product quality at all. So we've done these tests multiple times. I just want to show you how very, very quickly, because I don't have much time, how one coat of Ultra is very satisfyingly able to cover even a very dark black surface. And if you look at these ones here, these are, this is Gush vis-a-vis the other competitors in the market, and how one coat of Gush can very easily cover even a very dark blue surface. So of course we've deployed this. We've launched this in May, and we've won almost every tender that we've gone for. So I wanted to just show you a variety of different applications we've used this for. So Ultra, we've also made Ultra a solar reflective exterior paint, so it's just one coat. And typically, compared to the three coat product, we're actually able to reduce 25% of the tender price. So we actually won it. So I can be just open here. Typically, it would cost them about 170K. We went in at 120, and we won the deal straight away. For Habit, they're one of the biggest co-living spaces here in Singapore. For them, they want to reduce the amount of time it takes for the refurbishment process. So then with one coat, it's a lot faster for them to complete the project. And in terms of contracting price, we've also shown them a 40% reduction from the usual. This one is a residential condo. We've also shown it's able to save them 40% reduction from the usual. So we've also piloted with leading developers in Singapore like CDL and CapitaLand to prove to them 50% reduction in mandate requirements, much faster project completion and handover. And in terms of embodied carbon, just because it's one coat instead of three, embodied carbon has also been shown to reduce by 73%. At the same time, the last point here, we also want to show our enterprise customers that it's not just during the painting process, the capex at the start, that you reduce the price. On an ongoing basis, on an operational basis, you also reduce the energy bills because of the cooling energy consumption reduction up to 11.6%. So that's us. We sit at the intersection of science, wellness, and sustainability, and we keep pushing the boundaries of material science in order to create a world we can gush about.